Hi, welcome to Aperture and Shutter Speed, the photography radio show where you can learn and share your love for photography. I'm your host, Chelsea Williams, and I am live at SummerFest. I've been having so much fun, taking a bunch of classes, and I've got some interviews today. Usually we do the calendar for the Woodlands Photography Club, the Woodlands Camera Club, but I'm going to post those on Facebook so you can check out all the events going on, and we're just going to jump right into SummerFest today. With me right now, I have Bree Adams, and I have just taken her class on maternity and newborn and learned a whole lot, and I just wanted to get her to share a few things with us. First of all, Bree, thank you for taking time to talk to us. I appreciate you being here.
No, you're welcome. I love it. Thank you.
So you kind of had an interesting story of how you got into photography and how you kind of evolved. Do you want to just talk about that for a minute?
Sure. Well, we all come into photography different ways, but I would say that most of us, especially moms, came into it because, we're just trying to pull in a little extra income. We like taking pictures of our kids and other people's kids. And, it's kind of where I started a little bit, but I had gone on a mission trip to Zaragoza, Mexico, and worked with a mission couple, and I had a very feisty little 12-year-old boy. Actually, no, he was 11 at the time. And, I just wanted to show him what a good life he had, and I wanted him to learn compassion for other people. So I kind of went to teach him a lesson, so to speak. And when we got there, God actually taught me a lesson and moved on my heart. And the couple that we were working with, Deborah and, Deborah Martinez and Fernando Martinez, is a missionary couple that have set their life up right outside of Del Rio with a ranch, and they service a group of people who actually live right inside the city dump. Their homes are built out of the tin that they find. They make money by selling what they dig out of the trash for recyclables, and that's also how they eat. And their children stay in the dump with them all day long, even though they're school-age children. They don't go to school. And so this couple has come together and through straight donations built a soup kitchen on the city dump property, and they've also built a school. And in going there, I wanted to help service the school because it really touched my heart. And the best way that I could think to do that was through photography, because I didn't want to just write a check for it. I wanted to serve it, and I wanted to bring awareness to it. So starting with the people in my church, I started doing photos, and I called it Pictures of Grace. And everything that I made from those photos went directly to the project for the Dream Center in Zaragoza. And that's how my whole business started, was to raise money for others. Now, even though I've evolved into a full portrait business in the last 5 years, we're still the sole financial supporter of Zaragoza. So even though I've become an actual business from a momographer, so to speak, my donations to them have been able to go up and sustain them in a lot of ways because I've changed my photography and how I do it from more of a hobby into a business. Right. So it's been blessed all the way around.
Right. And I just love that story of just the heart that it came from. And I'm going on my first mission trip in October, and I've asked people, I don't really know what I can give. I'm going to give whatever I can give. And so many people say it's just going to change you.
It does.
And I'm kind of looking forward to that. I'm definitely going to bring my camera and see what I can get from that.
The camera and the heart are connected. That's why we do what we do. We capture moments. We tell stories. And that's the way God leads us into things. Sometimes, I had two friends that were going to Africa, and I use this photography for that as well. They needed to raise $4,000 each to go with Buckner to some their camps where HIV children are. They've already lost their parents, and they're outcasts now. Mm-hmm. And they needed to raise $4,000 of their own money in order to go on this mission trip. And it actually started with that first. And I was doing it to be helpful to my friends, right?
Right.
And then I ended up going on this mission trip for my son. Of course, it wasn't going for me. What do I have to learn? What's God got to teach me? But that's when I realized that, God pulls us into missions in a different path sometimes. I know this isn't a church program.
Right.
But it's interesting, though, because I was shooting photos mechanically for my friends, but then when I went to Mexico, and that's how God pulled me into missions with my heart, that's when the camera took on a new life, and that's when my love of photography took on a new life, because I was truly serving somebody else with it versus doing it to be a good friend. Does that make sense?
Right.
So, you know, the camera is a lens to the soul, and it will be used.
I just love that. You know, you started out in that way, and you're still contributing, but you have evolved into a huge brand all on your own. And how did you evolve from that to completely rebranding to what you are now?
How did I evolve? Restate the question.
Okay, I'm sorry. You started out more or less doing it kind of as a hobby to raise money for charity, and then you really dedicated yourself to be full-time and to learning and to really being a professional.
Right.
So I guess my question more or less is, in that process, you decided to do a lot of things to learn, and what did you go through to learn and change yourself?
Well, even as what I would consider myself a hobbyist in doing the money, it was Pictures of Grace is what I call it. In raising this money as a hobbyist, I mean, I wasn't charging very much money. It was $85 for a fully edited disc, and I was booked all the time, and I was busy, and people loved my photos, and I was cheap. But, you know, what it comes down is you have to, even when we're doing things for others and we're doing things to be gracious and giving, we're still taking something from somewhere, right? And I was still taking time from my kids, and I was still taking time from my family, and I was doing it for not very much money. So even though I was doing it for a charity, I was losing something on the other end. In order to make this little bit of money at $85 a disc for the charity, I was losing all this time with my family.
Right.
And I realized that if I got my skills better and I involved myself, that I could charge more money, and in return would be working less, but giving more money to charity. So you take the gift that you have and you add value to it. And by adding value, I did my CPP certification, Certified Professional Photographer. I joined Professional Photographers of America. I joined my local guild, which is the Dallas PPA. I serve on the board there as well. And I started doing print competition, Texas School. TexasSchool.org is another thing that I did. But any chance that I could find to invest in myself as a photographer has come around tenfold for me as a professional. So even though I started out saying, it's just for charity, or some moms say, I really don't need the money, it's just extra spending money, you know, without working yourself to death and giving away all this time that's precious to you for almost nothing because you feel like either you're not worth the extra money or your skills aren't there, you know, you're trading something off.
Right, your time is worth something.
Your time is worth something. And I'm sure, you know, God led me to do that, but I'm sure God didn't mean for me to give up 35 hours a week for almost nothing, take it from my family to give someone else's. There's always a balance. So for me, investing in my skills, investing in my craft, and turning it into a legitimate business, not only was I able to bless my family more by giving back their time to them, I blessed my clients more by taking my skill level up, but I'm blessing the mission more because I'm able to give them more now than I did then, but I'm not sacrificing anything on the other ends.
Right. And, you know, you talk about your story and the fact that Texas School and PPA and getting certified has done so much for you. That's what I hear all over here, all over SummerFest. And I know for me personally, going to Texas School the first year changed everything for me. It opened my eyes. Yeah. And but you also actively searched out a mentor, and I think that is something some people miss that is really valuable. Yeah. So what made you really decide I need to, you know, find somebody who's got this down and just learn everything I can from them?
You know, I take a lot of pride in saying that I'm self-taught in a lot of things, but at the same time, there's so many people out there that have so much information to give, and some people just love teaching. And I didn't necessarily go up to random strangers. I mean, here's the beauty of things. I mean, there's a lot of photographers that are part of no organization at all. And, you know, I'm on Facebook a lot. I love Facebook. I'm in a lot of different photography groups. Some are PPA related, some are more WPPI, and some have no affiliation at all. It's just moms who love photography or just women in general running businesses. But I see a consistent thing in these groups that I do not see in PPA groups. and this is why I dote on PPA so much, I see a lot of people worried about their competition. I see a lot of people
Right.
Mean about their competition and paranoid and just even ugly sometimes, because so-and-so is charging this, or I feel like she's undercutting me, or, that was my model. I just see crazy things on there. And what I have found is the more that you fear the people around you versus focusing on yourself, you're going to go down a different road. Now, through PPA, there are so many photographers that they love to share their knowledge. I love to teach. I think it's fantastic, and I'm an open book. And the person, Landon Day, that I share a studio with right now, he was just another photographer in the area. I did a search in my area for other photographers to see who was out there. And he was a different genre, which was helpful as far as, getting to know him. But the cool thing is when I had said, hey, I turned out we had mutual friends. And the mutual friends were in our church. We went to the same church, but different campuses. So it's kind of cool. But the one thing I learned about Landon is he answered any question that I ever had. And I was just starting out. He was a professional. And here
Right.
I was this newbie charging $85 a disc. And instead of being afraid of me, and instead of shunning me or being hateful
Right.
because I was, taking photography down the wrong road, or, I was killing the business and all that, instead, he saw it more valuable to invest in my knowledge. Because the more photographers that we as a group can pull out to honor the industry with education and correct pricing and knowledge, the better it is for everybody.
Right.
The more we pull together, high tides raise all ships. So now Landon and I share a studio, we collaborate. I've done super one-day classes at my studio, and there's no radius mile as to who can come, because it's all about education. The more we educate each other,
Right.
and the more we work together, the more people are there for us as well.
And I think, a lot of people, do feel that, oh, well, they're just, that mom with the camera. But you got to remember, everybody started somewhere.
Yeah.
You weren't good the first time you snapped a picture. I mean,
Yeah.
and, but I think that's great that, especially in this area, you find a community that people are willing to help each other, and people are willing to, talk to each other, and they don't try to intimidate you or scare you away.
No, that's great.
And I think you have a really unique situation sharing a studio. Not many people have that.
We
And
brought in a third photographer.
yeah, that's
We just
amazing.
split all the expenses, and her and Landon, they shoot the same stuff. But it doesn't affect each other.
Right.
Because here's the other thing that we've learned as photographers. People worry about other photographers seeing their pricing. But you know what? It's okay to look at what other photographers are doing, because it helps us to set a standard, right?
Right.
And the more we come together, the more we're going to pull that up. But here's the thing. As a studio share, which one is saved all expense, I used to pay $2,500 a month just for my studio. Now I pay $700 a month for a beautiful studio that I split with two people. And everyone's like, well, aren't you worried that someone's going to, like, Landon's going to steal your client, or Diana's going to take your client? I say, I'm really not. Because for the most part, most people have chosen their photographer online. Before they've ever walked in my studio door, they've usually already booked their appointment.
Yeah.
That's just a place that I take my pictures. And so I don't have a fear of sharing information with other photographers or sharing a studio with other photographers, because in the end, all of that collaborating has helped all of us.
Right.
You know?
And I think it's an understanding that your client isn't their client.
No.
You're not going for the same people. You're not going for the same target audience. So
Our look's different. Landon doesn't shoot babies, he's seniors, but Diana does. Diana and I both shoot newborns. Matter of fact, we both went to the same mentors, Kelly Wright and Tracy Raver, separately of each other. We didn't know each other. So truth be known, but our styles, even though we had the same mentor years ago, are different. I mean,
Right.
Somebody can look at Diana's photo and it looks different from mine, but they're consistently the same quality. It's just a matter of what their taste is.
right.
Our colors are a little different, our setups are different, but our quality is the same. So it's just a matter of who do you like, style-wise better.
Yeah.
And I pass clients to her, and she passes clients to me. And, that's one thing our photography community needs more of, is people to quit being afraid of the other photographers and quit being paranoid, and just work together and educate each other.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely. So, getting involved in PPA and TPPA, you started teaching. And how did that come about? You've started teaching not only in places like this, but your workshops and stuff at your studio.
Yeah. Well, I don't do tons of workshops. The ones that I did it went back to taking my skill set somewhere else. And part of that was through degree programs. So the first thing I did was I went into print competition because I wanted to prove myself to other photographers. You know, I wanted to come out of that. And I hate to use the word mom-based because I'm still a momographer.
Right.
You know, I'm just of a different caliber now. I've just invested myself differently. But I wanted to be taken seriously as a photographer. And just like I was saying in my program, if you don't invest in yourself, no one's going to invest in you. So you have to invest in your craft consistently. So for me, I also started in print competition. I did it for the degree. I wanted the degree Master of Photography, and I went after it. Now, the teaching of the workshops was because I'm a little competitive, and I'm sharing a studio with Landon, and Landon was going to be getting his photographic craftsman degree. And he's also a CPP with me. And I thought it would be mutually beneficial for us to be able, our studio is called Studio 124, and we're two separate photographers with two separate businesses, but we have a general website, and you just choose which photographer you were inquiring about.
Right.
But I couldn't have him be a photographic craftsman if I wasn't a photographic craftsman. And I had somebody ask me about teaching at one of the guilds, and so I wanted to walk the stage at the same time Landon did.
Lone Star Community Radio is on FM. That's right. Set your radio dials and your button presets to Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1 coming in June 2016. To celebrate this edition and the addition of video versions of our talk show and music shows on YouTube and cable TV, we are offering special sponsorship rates, which include free audio spots that are played throughout our broadcasts. Interested? Check out our sponsor rates for shows just like this one you're listening to right now online at irlonestar.com/sponsor. Or call the station at 936-647-5747. Reaching the people of Montgomery County with Montgomery County's community radio station with Lone Star Community Radio.
Welcome back to Aperture and Shutter Speed. I'm Chelsea Williams, your host, local portrait photographer in Conroe, Texas, and I am live at SummerFest. There's all kinds of classes been going on, and this morning I took a class with Francie Baltazar, Stone Street, and she is from Houston area in Kingwood, and she does wedding portraits, and she taught a class all about evoking emotion. Thank you for taking time to talk to us and telling us a little bit more. If you want to start out, do you want to describe how you got into photography and what drew you towards weddings?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me here. This is great. I really appreciate being able to share my information. I originally got into photography through shooting concerts. That was my start, was to do concerts. And then, to make a long story short, I had a corporate training and consulting company. And then from there, I sold my company and wanted to do something else. And my background was in photography, and I had been shooting throughout the years and showing in fine art galleries. And my husband said, hey, you should be a photographer. And so I started off doing commercial work, and then I second shot a wedding and fell in love with weddings, and I've been doing weddings ever since, and I've been doing weddings now for 10 years.
Wow, I think that's very unique because most photographers do other things, and then they shy away from weddings. They go, I don't want to do a wedding. So the fact that you found it and you love it is fantastic. And I think it's important for clients to find a photographer that is like that loves wedding and isn't just like, okay, I'll do it if I have to.
Right. I absolutely agree with that. I think that sometimes if someone's looking for a wedding photographer, that there is a couple things that they should look for. Number one, they need to look at the person's credentials, because oftentimes credentials will tell a lot about the photographer. Do they have a certifications? Do they have masters? Have they won any awards? And checking out those awards, because a lot of photographers will say award winning, but they won something like, most favorite on the Knot. And that's really more about getting people to write reviews about you than it is really about having a neutral panel.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is you've got to love the person's work. If you really love their work, then that's a good choice if they're within your price range.
Exactly. I think that is good advice to look at their credentials, and I think, getting certified, things like that makes you stand out based on everybody else out there. And you're right, in entering print competition, like, you have a beautiful image out there, and that shows that you are, you can do everything correctly, and, there's a standard that you're judged by, and it's not just, a lot of people liked it on Facebook.
Yeah, I think I think that getting likes on Facebook is an awesome way to promote yourself on Facebook, but likes on Facebook are not a way that you can promote to your clients. They're really not.
Right.
If you can say, I won, I won Best Portrait of a Bride, or I went to SummerFest and entered a contest, and all of my images, or 2 of my images, merited, and what that means, and explain to clients what it means, and explain that it's a group of very esteemed, neutral judges. All of a sudden, that gives you a level of credibility, because I tell my clients that's just providing them insurance. There's somebody outside within my industry that says I'm good enough that I've done this. And I think that makes a big difference when we're looking at how do we retain clients. And I think also if someone's looking for a photographer, weekend warriors, some of them can be really great, but the challenge is that they're not 100% invested because they've got another job.
Yeah.
And not to discount, because there's plenty of great weekend warriors out there. But those of us that are out there really trying to make a living at this, we have a vested interest, because if we don't do a good job for you, that's our livelihood.
Right.
And that's a big difference. I can't just close up shop and have another job to fall back on. This is my job. This is how I make my living. This is how I put my kid through school and how I put food on the table.
Right. And also, if a photographer has another job and something comes up at their other job, I've heard a lot of times, well, my wedding photographer didn't get me my images for 6 weeks, or didn't, it took a very long time because they had another job.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, again, I think the main thing is you have to love the wedding photographer's image. Then you have to really like your wedding photographer.
Right.
Because you're with your wedding photographer more than you're with anybody else on the entire day. So, if that's a choice, if you're a photographer and you don't like being around people and you don't interact well with people, being a wedding photographer is probably not your best choice. It's better, shoot commercials, shoot things that don't talk back, and then you'd be a better
real estate, maybe.
Exactly, real estate, exactly. But weddings have a variety of things that come up. Weddings actually remind me a lot of shooting concerts. They're one time. You get no second chances. They're super adrenaline charged. And I really love that. And I love love. I mean, that's just me. I love love. I love capturing that whole process.
Yeah. Some of my favorite weddings were, the ones where they couldn't hold themselves back. They were just, all in emotion and just grabbing hold of each other. They didn't care who was watching. And to me, that was it for me. I loved capturing that and being a part of that.
Yeah.
And I know that's all about what your class was today. How did you get into, you're obviously actively involved in PPA, TPPA. How did you get into teaching the class, and what made you want to be a part of SummerFest?
Okay, so that's a great question. Before I came back to photography, I was a professional trainer and speaker. So while my first love is photography, my second love is education. And when I joined PPA, the first thing that I did was go to Texas school, and fell in love with Texas school, and I've been going to Texas school. I think this year was my 9th year to go. And then I got my CPP, which was really important, Certified Professional Photographer. And at the time, there wasn't anybody really promoting Certified Professional Photographer.
Right.
And I am super passionate about that certification. It's a technical certification. It is something that I think can make a difference in your business if it's promoted right. And I think it gives you one more set of credentials. So there was nobody speaking on that. So I decided that I was going to create a program on the secrets of earning your CPP. And I went around Texas and spoke to all the guilds in Texas. Then I spoke to all the guilds in Louisiana. Then I went to New Mexico. And it was like I was on a personal mission to tell everybody about CPP and try to get more and more people to become CPP. So that was my first round. And then people said, do you have any other programs? And so then I developed Evoke, capturing a motion in images, because PPA asked me to do a webinar on it. And so I did a webinar on PPA. So if anybody wants to, if you belong to PPA, you can actually look it up, and you can go listen to an hour webinar that's a modification of the program I did today. And And then, one thing led to another, and then people started asking me to come and speak to their guilds about it, and that's how I'm doing it. So I speak on off-camera flash, I speak on emotion, I speak on weddings, and CPP. Those are the things. And I love educating people. I love sharing information with people because I believe that as an industry, we are only as strong as our weakest link. And so we all need to support and help each other because that makes us all stronger as an industry together.
Right.
And photography is a lonely business. So doing Texas School and SummerFest and belonging to PPA gives me other professionals that I can network with and that have become some of my closest friends because we're all out in our studios and it's a lonely business and it's a great way to connect with other people when we belong to these associations.
Right. And I totally agree with that because I know me personally, other portrait photographers in my area, they want to separate. They don't want to share. They're just completely isolated from me. And then, I do go to Texas School and go to events, and you make friends, and you learn amazing things just from the people there. I mean, you learn great things from the instructors, but just, corroborating with other people there is a great learning tool. And I totally get that photography can be really isolating, and just having a way to reach out is great.
I think also it's not just, it's not just the education. The education is awesome, but it's also doing things like this, just sitting and talking to somebody, having coffee, just chatting and sharing information. Because I've gotten some fabulous ideas that way, just talking to somebody and going, well, have you thought about that? And I was like, oh man, I never thought about it. Oh my God, that's such a great idea.
Yeah.
And so it's and photographers also, we're all kind of a weird bunch. We live in our own little world. We see light. We're looking at photos. When we're looking at normal, what everybody looks at normal, we're like, wow, look at the beautiful light on that person's face. That's really cool. And if I'm sitting with a group of photographers, I go, wow, look at that light. They're all going, wow, that's cool. If I go and say that to my husband, he's like, what?
Yes. My husband makes fun of me constantly. Everywhere I go, I'm like, the light is just amazing right now. Right. I just need a subject. And he totally rips me for that one.
That's right. And so, if we're at SummerFest and we go, wow, or Texas School, we go, oh my God, that light is great. We'll go find somebody and we can photograph them. So I think from that standpoint, just having people who are in our industry and being able to connect with them and sharing information is a really important part of our business. And those who isolate and are not willing to share information, I'm not sure why people do that, but they do. And the reality of it is there's enough business for all of us.
Yes.
There really is. Because if someone hires you over me, that just means you had a better connection, and that wasn't my client. And I've heard people go, oh, well, yeah, but everybody's my client. No, the reality is if you think everybody's your client, that's probably not the best approach.
Right.
I know that I have a very segmented group of people that I know that are my client. I have profiled my client. I know what they are. I know how much income they make. I know what kind of background they have. And if people come to me and they are outside of that, the likelihood of them booking me is not real high because I have a very specific, defined client. And that client is probably not going to be your client. Or it may be, and if it comes down to them looking between the two of us, if you get it and I don't, then win for you. Next time I'll get it. There's plenty of business out there for everybody if you're striving for excellence and you're producing a quality product.
Right. And I think that's it, try to be excellent at it. Don't just chase every tiny little lead. And, I see so many people in moms groups, somebody will post, does anybody know a good budget photographer? And it cracks me up because there will be 100 women that jump on there and go, me. And I'm just like, no, thank you. No, I don't feel like I need to chase every little thing like that.
I think that, I have a tiny bit different perspective on that. Just a tiny bit, okay? I think that, so I've been around the industry for a long time, and professional portrait photography used to be exclusively for people with discretionary income at higher levels of income. And with the digital age, that completely changed everything. And so now anyone can afford a photographer because there are photographers at every level. Okay? So there is that mom photographer who will charge $50 for a session,
Yes.
and you will get $50 session. That's probably the quality that you're going to get. The only beef that I have in this industry is people who undercharge for the quality that they're giving.
Right.
If you're a really good photographer, and say, for example, you're a weekend warrior, and you're not using your photography to make a living, so you're undercharging so that you're booked, that's where I have the issue. Because for me, if you are producing excellent, high-quality work, your dollars should reflect that as if you were having to make a living in photography.
Right.
That's where my issue is. And the reality of it is all those people who are doing shoot and burns and charging $50 or $150 or $500 or whatever it is that they're charging, they're not going to be in business for a long time. You cannot sustain that over a period of time. It will not happen. So one of two things is going to happen with that person. They're either going to leave the industry and stop doing it, or they're going to make a shift and go, wait a minute, I don't have to be that person. I can completely change how I'm doing things.
Right.
So, I'm a mom with a camera. I have a son. I'm a mom with a camera, but I'm also a professional, so I want to charge professional fees. And the other thing that's cool about this is if you belong to PPA has benchmarking, and it's a free service, and you can go on there and it will estimate if you're a home office, it'll estimate your expenses, and if you want to make $60,000 a year and you want to do X amount of sessions, you can plug in all those numbers and it'll tell you how much you should charge for every session, or how much money you need to make for every session to make that $60,000 based on what the general standards are for home office, or if you have a home studio, or if you have a freestanding studio. And so that's a great benchmark to say, where should I be? But, just because you have a camera and just because you're taking pictures does not make you a professional.
Yes, I firmly agree in that. I firmly agree with that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being a hobbyist, but you should know the difference. And anyway.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You mentioned several good things about PPA and their website is the fact that there's learning videos you can watch on there, and the fact that they have tools that you can use to really figure out where you are and where you want to be. So, a lot of people ask what the benefits of PPA is. I think that's, they have a lot of resources.
I can tell you the biggest benefit of PPA. Biggest benefit. If you don't care about education, and you don't care about networking, and you don't care about print competition, and you don't care about any of that, the biggest reason to be a member of PPA is for this little unknown thing called the Indemnification Trust. And what the Indemnification Trust is that PPA provides is, say, for example, you have burned images onto your computer and you have a catastrophic failure of your hard drive and it will not fire up. You can pick up the phone and call PPA, and PPA is going to engage your indemnification trust, and you will pay $500 deductible, and you get to send your drive off, which could cost thousands of dollars to retrieve the data.
Right.
And you pay your $500 deductible, and they will get your data off your drive. If you get sued because you lose data for something else, you lose your cards, you do something stupid, you're not shooting on a dual slot camera and you have a catastrophic failure, Indemnification Trust is there to help you recover damages that could happen, and they will represent you. And it is I believe it's $2 million per incident. So the $350 that you pay a year, number one, you get $10,000 worth of equipment insurance. Then you get the Indemnification Trust. Those two things alone is worth the $350 a year.
Right.
But then you get all the education. The online webinars are free, but then you have access to Imaging USA and all of the affiliate schools, and then you can get involved locally, etc. So I am a big proponent of belonging to PPA and belonging to your state association, which is TPPA, Texas Professional, and then belonging to wherever your local guild is. In the Conroe area, you really have two choices. You could belong to the Houston Guild, which meets, I think it's the third Tuesday, or you could belong to Brazos Bend.
Right.
And so both of those guilds are great options for those people who live in Conroe. And I know people who live in Conroe who belong to both guilds, but
Right.
and they attend both Brazos Bend and Houston.
Right. And if anybody wants to hear more about the Houston Guild and PPGH, go to our archives and you can look up our interview with Terry Whitaker, and she talked all about the Guild and kind of explained the benefits and what they do. So definitely go in there and listen to that. I want to thank you for taking time to talk to us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I can't wait for the rest of SummerFest. I'm excited.
I'm excited too.
So if everybody will stick with us, we will have more after the break with Aperture and Shutter Speed.
I know you know this already, but most of the shows on Lone Star Community Radio are available in podcast format. If you want to keep up with the latest shows, just subscribe to our YouTube channel, Lone Star Community Radio, and our website at irlonestar.com. You can even follow us on SoundCloud and Twitter to see the latest posts from Lone Star Community Radio. Can't find a show? Then just search for it on irlonestar.com in the search bar to the top right of every page. Or just contact us on irlonestar.com/contact us with your questions, demands, sponsorships, anything. Lone Star Community Radio is your Montgomery County community radio station.
Welcome back to Aperture and Shutter Speed. I'm your host, Chelsea Williams, professional photographer in Conroe, Texas. I am live at SummerFest, and I've been taking a class today on boot camp print competition. And Mark McCall's been teaching the class, and he's here with us now to tell us a little bit more about it.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, thanks for taking time out to talk to us and tell us all about it. Do you mind telling everyone just a little bit about yourself as a photographer?
Well, my name is Mark McCall. I have a boutique studio in downtown Lubbock, Texas, in the historical district downtown. I've been a photographer professionally for about 20 years, but as a hobby my entire life. I got my first camera when I was 8 years old, when my grandmother bought a case of mail-order makeup and a camera came with it. So I was the benefactor of that, and it seems to have worked out pretty good. We do a wedding and commercial and some aircraft photography. Basically, a lot of the things that everybody shoots nowadays, sports and proms and weddings, everything people normally do, that's what we do.
Yeah, I think I hear a lot of professional photographers lately that talk about falling in love during childhood. I know I was 13 years old when I really fell in love with it, but that's a great story of that camera coming in with makeup. I've never heard of that. So you became a professional photographer, have your own studio. You started with PPA to earn your own merits and your own degrees, and now you've done so well in merits, they want you to teach.
Yeah, and that's pretty common in the industry. If you're successful, other people want to learn about your success, and we're happy to give back. So many people helped me when I started. I could never repay them, but I can definitely pay forward by doing these classes, workshops, and helping younger photographers get started.
Right. Do you think that's a big part of people's success is searching out and finding a mentor and, kind of just one person that will be willing to guide you along your path?
Well, I think it's probably one of the most important things. I know that I had a mentor back home, and I couldn't have done what I've done without my mentor. So I think it's one of the things that you have to do because it's critical for your success. You could probably learn everything eventually. A mentor is just going to get you there much faster than trying to do it alone.
Right. And a lot of that is, building your photography community and kind of finding somebody who's not threatened by you to show you a few things. And I think that's all about what these workshops are and what our, guilds are, and kind of building our community.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And just learning together. So you've been talking about print competition and getting maybe newbies or people that have never printed before ready for it, and just giving them a few tips. So for somebody that doesn't understand print competition, can you just explain the process and kind of what it does for them a little bit?
Sure. When you enter in a print competition, you're not judged against other images per se. You're judged against a standard that's preset by PPA, Professional Photographers of America. 5 judges give their score, and each of those scores is averaged for a final overall score. If that score is 80 out of 100, you receive what's called a merit, and that is our badge, or that's our benchmark for doing well in this industry. You need 25 merits to become a master photographer. 13 of those must be from print competition. But aside from the awards and the accolades, it's really important to remember that print competition is designed to make you a better photographer. That's the overall goal, to make you better. The awards and the accolades, that's just icing on the cake.
Right. So it's not necessarily bad if you come and get a 70. Maybe next year you'll come and get an 80. And you're not competing against other people necessarily. It's competing against yourself the previous year, maybe just constantly trying to get better.
Absolutely.
And that's why I'm excited to be here and learning a little bit more. Is maybe I'll do better this year, learn a little bit more, and the next year I'll enter a competition and be amazing at it.
Yeah, well, as much as we've done in our career, we're teaching the class, but we're also active entrants as well. We're constantly sharpening that knife. We're constantly getting better. I don't think that you can ever learn everything. So that's the whole premise for us, for print competition, is to not only teach younger photographers how to do it, we keep doing it ourselves.
Right. Well, I don't know how, you did a whole day of giving tips and stuff. I don't know how to ask you to summarize these, but could you hit some highlights on recommendations if somebody was entering print competition?
Oh, yeah. It's important that photographers know there are local resources in the individual towns around Texas. All the major metropolitan areas have local guilds that they can seek out, go to the print competitions on the local level, find mentors, hobnob with other photographers who are interested in what they do, and then they use that as a springboard to the state association, onto the district level, onto the international level. On every level, you're getting more and more feedback from other photographers who either like your work or think you need to improve, and I'll be glad to share that with you. And that's what it's all about, is making yourself a better photographer. And you do that by joining these associations and being active in those associations. That's what's going to make you better.
Right. There's been so many times that I've gone to Texas school or different events, and I learned just as much as from the other classmates in the group than from the instructor, just because everybody gives you a little piece of information and you always learn something unexpected, kind of.
Isn't that amazing how you can learn so much from the person just sitting next to you?
Right. And it's just, when you figure it out, it seems so obvious the whole time. But I think that's the importance of getting out there and going to these educational events, because if you're at home just trying to surf the web to find answers, you're not going to figure these things out. And I just love the camaraderie of it.
Oh, yeah, and it's fun. We get together and we have barbecues and drinks by the pool, and we're not just a group of photographers. We're a society, and we're friends. And I've watched all my photographer friends' kids grow up, and they've watched my kids get older. So it's great to have a conversation with someone who's not a spouse, but they do what you do for a living, and they can understand. Right. You have a rough day that day, or you got a camera that's acting up, or a child that wouldn't sit still for their portrait sessions. You can talk to another photographer and say, hey, this is the kind of day I had, and they come back with, I had that kind of day too. This happened to me, blah, blah, blah. And we can't get that from our families at home.
Yeah, exactly. And, I think it just helps us build, because I know I can get kind of down on myself, and I just, oh my gosh, I hate these pictures. And my husband will say something and I don't trust a word he says, because he doesn't know what he's looking at. So I want to ask another professional and get an honest opinion about it. And that's what I love about the groups. So other than that, for ideas of how to help, is there definite don't do's for entering print competition?
Well, the only big don't is to don't not enter. You're not going to get any better just sitting on the sidelines.
Right.
Just jump in with both feet, enter, see what happens, take the feedback, improve your work, send it again next year. That's the biggest crime, I think, is just not entering at all. Once you do enter, you're going to get a feel for what the judges like, what they don't like. They really love storytelling images, and we talked about that all day today. Storytelling images are going to score higher than any other type of images, in our opinion. Wedding images are beautiful. We've seen beautiful senior work, beautiful baby work. But if an image tells a compelling story, it's going to score well. But you never know what you're going to get until you enter.
Exactly. And sitting in on print competition for a little bit, I did hear that from a lot of judges today of, well, it's got a great story. This might be a little bit off, but, I just love this story. And it was really interesting to hear that from them and just hear their thoughts on, everything didn't have to be perfect, but they felt like it was a good image. And it really brought emotion, I guess. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what you could go for.
and it's exciting, too, because we had a 100 today, and it's very rare to get a 100 in print competition. But we had one today, and that's just beautiful. Very exciting.
Yeah, and just to hear the eruption of applause and all that was amazing. Everybody was so excited for that. But I think you're right, and just don't let fear keep you from entering, and just jump in with both feet.
That's what we tell everyone. Yeah, don't let anything hold you back, because that's the only crime is to not enter.
Right. Is there anything that I didn't ask that maybe you would throw out there as a final tip?
Well, the only thing that I would share with people who are not members of these associations, they don't enter into print competitions, is don't be an island to yourself, because you're never going to learn anything. You're never going to expand your talent unless you're around other photographers and other good photography. Join your local association, whether it be a meetup group, more of an established educational association, whatever. Just don't do it by yourself, because you're never going to expand the island you're on unless you do that.
Right. And I think a lot of times people get comfortable with, hanging around maybe the same quality or even lower quality, artwork because they feel like it makes them feel safe. But I think if you put yourself around people that are really great, it'll push you a little bit more to be a little bit greater and do a little bit better each time. And, they say you are more like the people you hang around with. So I definitely want to hang around people here.
Absolutely. And we're glad to have you.
Well, I just want to thank you again for taking time to talk to us and give us a few tips. And I guess we'll see you around.
Sure, absolutely. Tell everybody to look me up on Facebook, Mark McCall, Lubbock, Texas. Lots of educational things that we put on our website. We'll be glad to share with anyone.
What's your website?
My website is mccallsstudio.com.
All right. And also on TPPA Facebook page.
Yeah, Texas Professional Photographers Association Facebook page. I'm the official moderator for that page. We share print competition tips, ideas, the Did You Know series, videos, the how-to videos. Everything that we do is centered around making photographers better in the industry that they're in.
Well, that's just perfect, and I think it's a great resource for everybody that just wants to learn a little bit more. So thank you again, and keep on listening, because we'll be right back with more from Live from SummerFest.
Lone Star Community Radio is FM. That's right. Set your radio dials and your button presets to Conroe's FM 104.5 and 106.1, coming in June of 2016. To celebrate this edition and the addition of video versions of our talk and music shows on YouTube, cable TV, and Our City TV, we are offering special sponsorships rates, which include free audio spots that are played throughout our broadcast. Interested? Check out our sponsor rates for shows just like the one you're listening to online at irlonestar.com/sponsor, or call the station at 936-647-5747. reaching the people of Montgomery County with Montgomery County's community radio station with Lone Star Community Radio.
Welcome back to Aperture and Shutter Speed. I am live at SummerFest. We've had a wonderful day today, just talking to everybody, all the instructors, and I've been talking to all the students here, and we've just been having a great time. Before the break, I did interviews with Bree Adams, who's a newborn photographer, and I did talk to Francie Baltazar, who is a wedding photographer in the Houston-Kingwood area, and then I also talked to McCall, and he was doing the print competition boot camp, and it was just packed full of tons of information. If you missed any of this interview, please go to irlonestar.com, look in our archives, and you can pull it up and just re-listen and share it with anybody you think might benefit from knowing a little bit about TPPA and SummerFest. I just want to thank everybody who participated and listened, and I've just had a great time at SummerFest. I'm going to take one more class tomorrow. It's boudoir photography, and that should be very exciting. I'm going to end up telling y'all all about that on Facebook, so please listen for that, and I'll tell you also about it next week. Tuesday at 12 o'clock will be the next episode of Aperture and Shutter Speed, and I'll tell you my experience all this week. So please stay tuned. Next week, 12 o'clock, irlonestar.com, and keep on shooting.
Thanks for checking out this production on Lone Star Community Radio, Montgomery County's radio station. For more information on this show and other shows on Lone Star, check us out online at irlonestar.com. If you're interested in sponsoring a program on Lone Star Community Radio and reaching the local audience of Montgomery County on FM, internet, and TV media, please call 936-647-5747 or contact us online at irlonestar.com. This recording is a Lone Star Community Radio production, produced by the show host and Dick Schissler of Lone Star Community Radio. Interested in volunteering as a music DJ or starting your own talk show? Contact Dick Schissler at dick@irlonestar.com or by phone at 936-647-5747.